The Boys! This Toronto-based sleeper hit just wrapped up its second season, picking up traction both in popularity and memeability.
Wow.
I'll be honest with you, I'd barely heard anything about this show until my friend told me to watch the pilot with him, which I did. Then he left, and so I watched the next episode, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then I'd watched the entire first season in less than 24 hours, which I practically never do. Even with shows I love like The Sopranos, I still capped out at about 2 or 3 episodes per day maximum. So this kind of speed was, for me, unprecedented. The show hooks you instantly by painting a world that is familiar to us, but also a little off. Or is it? The first way in which this superhero-saturated world feels familiar is, of course, that it plays off all the superhero films and TV shows we've been being spammed with since 2008. As we come to learn quickly, these heroes don't act like heroes at all, but rather more akin to real-life celebrities, which is the second way this world feels familiar to us. It constantly reminds us of the actual world we live in a very unsettling manner. Right at the beginning of the first episode, the main character, Huey, who's always making this face, witnesses his girlfriend quite literally get run through by this world's equivalent of the Flash, A-Train, leaving Huey to hold his girlfriend's severed hands. If that didn't set the tone for what this show is all about, I don't know what would've. Instantly, the series feels bleak, as the main characters, with the exception of Starlight, are completely powerless to actually do anything about these constant injustices, which it becomes apparent that there are a lot of. What's worse is watching as the world cheers them on. You as a viewer start to hate the superheroes with a passion. Even when they are able to catch a soup, aka translucent, it takes them an entire episode just to figure out how to kill him. But when they do kill him, oh boy, does it feel satisfying. This leads me into something that Season 1 really nails: pacing. I think the best pacing I've ever seen in a show is Breaking Bad. In a similar plotline, Walt and Jesse end up being stuck with a hostage at the end of the pilot, and it takes them 2 entire episodes to decide what to actually do with him. In the end, Walt is probably about to let him go when he realizes that the hostage has a broken shard of plate which he plans to stab him with, and likely his family after him. So he does what he has to do, and kills him. Similarly, Huey's reluctant to kill Translucent due to his strong moral compass, but realizes at the end of the episode that he has no choice. So, he does what he has to do. Some of the best TV shows instantly hook you, not just with interesting characters or a unique world, but something you really want to see happen. In Stranger Things, another show with a strong first season, you want to see the main characters overcome the corrupt government, who are similarly incredibly strong compared to the average Joe protagonists. In Breaking Bad, you want to see Walt overcome a world which has beaten him down, which eventually comes back to bite you as a viewer, but that's off topic. In order to keep you invested, the shows can't just give you what you want to see instantly. What these shows do instead is slowly feed you small treats, almost like a trail of candy, of what you want to see. For an example, Walt owning these drug dealers near the end of Season 1. Sure, his life still sucks ass, but at least he was a badass. As the story progresses, the trail of little treats eventually leads to a buffet of rich desserts. In Stranger Things, this comes in the Season 1 finale, since there probably wasn't supposed to be a Season 2 initially. In Breaking Bad, I would argue this comes at the end of Season 4, when Walt finally liberates himself and Jesse, leading to Season 5, which deals with his downfall as opposed to his rise. But initially, it was considered by Vince Gilligan to end the show right here with Walt saying, "I won." So back to The Boys, the eventual buffet, which we are still yet to see, is the downfall of Vought and the superheroes along with it. As the season progresses, the treats we get, as they should, get gradually larger and larger. In the season finale, Butcher faces down Homelander and Huey faces down A-Train. It's easy to appreciate the pacing here, especially when compared to a show that gets the pacing wrong. A good example of pacing done wrong is Game of Thrones seasons 7 and 8, which feels like watching a show permanently on fast forward. The amount of stuff that happens in just one episode of season 8 is roughly equivalent to what should happen in an entire season of television. What else is good about season 1? The characters.
You played my butt like jazz.
William Butcher starts out seeming like a badass until it's revealed he's actually lying about his identity.
Yeah, okay, so look, technically I'm not a Fed.
What? And actually an extremely petty asshole. Don't worry though, he's also a badass at the same time as being a petty asshole, so it's all good. What makes his character work is how strong his motivation to see Homelander's downfall is. The reason he's the way that he is because of the desperate man he's become, living only to see his enemies destroyed. As we later learn, his father also played a hand in this. Another great character is Homelander, who may come across as a one-dimensional villain at first, but quickly proves himself to be so much more than that. Sure, he's basically pure evil covered up in a charming exterior, but similar to Butcher, you understand why he's the way that he is. He's the most powerful person on Earth, and no one can challenge him. On top of this, his backstory helps unravel how little human connection he actually had growing up. As a kid, all he knew was his power. So of course he grew up to be a complete sociopath.
So what if I took you to a house you'd never seen before, full of photos of parents you never met? Every year, she would bake me a birthday cake in the shape of a baseball diamond. Toys you never played with, Hardy Boy books that you never read. Ugh, I gotta tell you, it was perfect. And then I asked you how much all that fake fucking bullshit meant to you. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details. Just like her. How would that make you feel?
Okay. Perfect. So great.
So we done?
Yes.
Right.
What's even more interesting about him is how childlike he still is underneath the super suit. Not only is he petty, lonely, and craving of attention, but the man still drinks breast milk, for God's sake.
I can't live without breast milk.
Homelander is very evidently desperate to have a mother figure in his life.
Change back! Change back! I'm sorry! I can only hold a shape for so long before it really hurts!
What impresses me the most about this, other than Anthony Starr's great performance, is that Homelander wasn't even like this in the comics. He actually was a pretty one-dimensional evil villain there. All this nuance was written in specifically for the TV adaptation. I know I'm not the first to say it, but the fighting choreography isn't exactly great, and it kind of resorts to just cutting rapidly instead of actually showcasing a decent fight. And whilst this may be a missed opportunity, since seeing heroes utilize their different unique powers could have been very interesting, it's still just one thing I'm not wild about. One other nitpick is that the color correcting looks like straight up shit at points. Like, what the hell is this? Why does it look like this? I'm gonna fix it in 1 second. Boom. Look at that. That's just objectively better. I could go on longer about Season 1 and the things I like about it, such as the political commentary, but I think I've said enough. It's time to move on to Season 2. How does that stack up? Well, it's still good, you know? Still good, I guess. But honestly, it doesn't really stack up. As opposed to Season 1, which I rocketed through, this season felt like more of a chore to watch. Now, I will admit, the last 2 episodes of the season are indeed great, and I would argue practically as good as Season 1 was. But it's the first 6 episodes that come before it which really bog everything down. Remember when I talked about Stranger Things and how it kind of climaxes at the end of the first season? The problem with that is if you go too big too fast, there's really nowhere you can take the story that will feel satisfying from that point on. Stranger Things Season 2 struggles to compete with the first season and often feels like a rehash. Season 3 even more so. Each finale of the show artificially raises the stakes even higher, but since they were so high to begin with, at this point it's literally world-ending. Now, The Boys didn't conclude its story or even go nearly as explosively big as the Stranger Things Season 1 finale did, but Season 2 still feels at times as if it's competing to outshine Season 1. Attrition within the story sets in. The show struggles to find things to do with its characters. Starting out in Season 2, every single character is already a federal person of interest, so they can't easily leave this shitty den they're in. And when they do, it's when they're going on a mission, aka when no one recognizes them for some reason despite their faces being plastered everywhere. Apparently being a number 1 person of interest actually really doesn't impact your ability to go outside. Who'd have thunk it? And on this topic, it's way too easy for them to break in and out of maximum security facilities. This was already a tad of a problem in Season 1, but in Season 2 it must have taken steroids because it's grown noticeably. Another issue present in Season 2 is that of the characters. At the end of Season 1, Huey spares A-Train, which to me felt a little counterproductive of what he'd been working towards the entire show.
Call an ambulance.
He'll never stop coming for you.
I know.
Sure, I get it, he's a good boy, and he doesn't want to kill anyone, but the man ran through your girlfriend and then laughed about it.
I ran so fast through this bitch that I swallowed one of her molars. Like a bug on the fucking freeway.
You're laughing.
He's likely killed scores of innocent civilians before and likely will continue to do so if spared. Now, it's not impossible that A-Train will undergo a redemption arc before the end of the series, but Huey could never have known that, even if he does. But hey, everything I'm talking about takes place in Season 1. What about Season 2? The problem with Huey in Season 2 is that after Season 1, where he already leaves off with a kind of questionable decision, he just kind of stagnates. He doesn't really do much except whine and pout and make this fucking face. A-Train does end up helping Huey at one point, but I mean, it's kind of reluctantly, and Huey doesn't really do anything to initiate it. Again, it's understandable why he's acting like this, considering that his entire life has been uprooted. But in my opinion, when it's the main character we're dealing with, this kind of behavior gets kind of stale kind of quickly. Season 2 introduces the character of Stormfront, who at first felt like she was supposed to be a parody of a social justice warrior straight out of 2016.
You write all women as either unknowable Hitchcock bitches or Michael Bay fuck dolls. I mean, I get that a lifetime of jerking off to Transformers didn't exactly make you popular with the ladies, but a little effort would be nice. You know what I'm saying?
But then she suddenly pulled a 180 and was revealed to be a literal Nazi from Nazi Germany who knew Himmler and Goebbels personally because she's actually 100 years old.
What do SJWs like Victoria Newman want us to do? Give him a cup of iced tea?
Well, that's quite the shift.
They want to wipe us from this earth just because of the color of our skin.
Really?
It's called white genocide.
Is the idea that she was supposed to be a literal feminazi? Was this written by r/the Donald? Was it by chance a little cartoonish to make the new villain of the show literally a Nazi?
Fucking yellow bastard.
Yes. Yes, it was. She could have emulated the same negative traits and held the same populist speeches without directly loving Hitler, and also knowing Hitler. Though Stormfront may be kind of over the top, she's still very hateable in the right ways, and it's satisfying as fuck to see her get the ever-living shit beaten out of her and then get lasered to death in the season finale. To be fair, it doesn't make total sense because she was able to withstand getting lasered before this.
Laser my fucking tits.
But I guess the implication here is that Homelander's son is just stronger than Homelander is, even though this is the first time that he's ever done the eye lasers. I'll just accept that, I guess. Speaking of Homelander, he's also great this season. He's consistently interesting and terrifying. It honestly reminds me of what Zack Snyder was trying to do with his original cut of Justice League, which probably still would have sucked, but wouldn't have sucked nearly as much as what we actually got. The raw power of an evil Superman is made very apparent here, as well as the fact that, should he choose to, he could kill you and everyone you know without even lifting a finger, even if it isn't executed very well. Now, there have been many evil Superman incarnations over the past decades, but the Justice League one feels the most tragic to me because, you know, maybe it could have been kind of interesting if it didn't get fucked over by the studio. Thankfully, Homelander is this idea fully realized. Every time someone defies him, or even annoys him, their fate lies completely at his mercy. Even when someone manages to get away with defying him, like Gus Fring does in this well-written scene, in the end it's still Homelander's active decision whether to let him live or die. We also see that the only thing Homelander cares about in the entire world is his reputation. We saw hints of this in Season 1, such as the incredibly memorable scene when Homelander and Maeve botch a mission to rescue a plane from terrorists, so Homelander abandons everyone to die, refusing even to rescue a little girl because she might tell people about his failure. Quick side note, but I think this scene is not only a great teller of Homelander's insecurity, but also laziness, because I mean, let's be honest, he probably could have saved the plane if he'd wanted, but he didn't want to take the risk that he might try to save it and then fail and be caught failing, on top of the good PR he manages to get by blaming the military. In Season 2, however, cracks are beginning to form in his ego. Not only is Stormfront able to completely enrage him just by damaging his online reputation slightly with some incredibly awful memes, but he is barely able to hold it together when, for the first time, people protest against him, going as far as to fantasize about killing them. A not so subtle piece of foreshadowing that he's beginning to lose his grip. Most likely the show will end with him cracking completely and dropping all pretenses of even being a hero. Another random thing I liked was the scene when Butcher talks with his father, which I think added a lot of layers to his character. I noticed a lot of parallels between his relationship with his father and Huey's relationship with him here. Maybe the show will make an effort to make this parallel more clear going forward. I also liked the scenes when the Seven were filming their new movie and it clearly parodied Hollywood. I especially like how the show satirizes giant corporations trying to look inclusive, such as Vought forcing Maeve to publicly identify as a lesbian despite her being bi, so that they can sell rainbow merchandise of her and try to look accepting without actually taking any risks. Disney. I also love how they parody that studios are too scared to actually feature a prominent gay kiss in their movies.
I'm gay. We have to keep moving. And cut!
The best thing that Season 2 does, though, is deliver an incredibly nerve-wracking and entertaining final 2 episodes that see many events set in motion long ago finally come to be, such as the return of Mallory, the realization of Ryan's powers, the death of Becca, and Stormfront's final face-off with everyone. Most of all, the female, that's her actual name, that's not me being lazy, who wants revenge for the killing of her brother. I was actually a little disappointed when Ryan got sent away at the end of the season, since I think he could have developed a pretty interesting and dynamic relationship with Butcher, who he could learn a great deal from after living a life of complete seclusion. I mean, they're probably going to see each other again at some point during the show. I mean, maybe he'll even be there in Butcher's final moments, since I'm assuming Butcher's going to die at some point in the story. I haven't finished the comics yet, so don't spoil it in the comments, cunts. Overall, Season 2 is a little shakier than its predecessor, with some confused character motivations and shoddier writing. Even still, I enjoyed it, and will be eagerly tuning in to the premiere of Season 3, whenever the fuck that may be, since this pandemic has thrown release schedules into the fucking toilet.
One day distinctions will go away. One day we will have no sway.
Collect yourself and kindly play along.
You'll teach yourself what's right and wrong.
Laser my fucking tits.